Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. It's another episode of G-Quuuuuux. Yay. Episode 4 felt rushed. Episode 5 was a total mess. So you can imagine I wasn't super looking forward to Episode 6 to complete a garbage tier trilogy. And so, despite having a horrible headache and really not feeling up to doing a review, I sat down, watched the show, and recorded this review. This show isn't getting any better. And the worst part is, it's generally just frustrating because there are these little nuggets of good. And all I can think is, oh man, I want to follow that story. I want to follow those characters. I want something. We just get nothing. It really does feel like the staff is more interested in jangling keys and pointing out the member berries than they are about anything else. So, let's break down Episode 6 of G-Quuuuuux. Once again, we get another episode where the title lies. This episode has almost nothing to do with the assassination plot against Cecilia Zabi. What it does have to do is a lot of running in place. We begin with the Pomeranians congratulating Machu on her previous win, and Machu is still soaked from the rain and stuff, and they're like, hey, how did you get so wet? Well, whatever. Anyhow, you're awesome. And then she's like, yeah, awesome. I guess Neon just snuck out and left the facility with no one noticing. Instead of explaining to the group that someone else piloted, she just took the credit for the win. Cool. We then cut to the Zeons as new commander lady shows up and she's all like, hey, Cecilia Zabi will be visiting the colony and we're worried that someone might be plotting to assassinate her. Then she's like, oh, also, wine. The wine never comes up again. I just want to point out they said California wine, and I'll agree, California wine is quite good. We then cut to Xavier. He is on the train again with mysterious train guy who's giving him information, warns him that Chalia Bull might be targeting Cecilia Zabi, and also that Xavier is going to be given a new special assignment by Cecilia. We don't actually find out what this assignment is, but at least it shows they're doing something with Xavier. So we then cut to Neon, who is feeling all emo about what happened, and like I predicted in the last episode, they're just going to hand wave away that she went crazy in the fight, and are just like, oh, I guess things just got out of hand. That was a bummer. And then Shuji is all like, hey, I still like you. At least that's what the Gundam says. And she's like, oh, cool. And Machu is like, yeah, I'm not dealing with those people right now because I'm still having anger feelings, which is good. It remembered that she was angry. We even get a little flashback of her yelling at Neon about the whole process of stealing her G-Quuuuuux. At least some of that plot is kind of moving forward. Can't believe I just called that plot. Anyhow, we then cut back to Neon, and she's approached by her handler, who sends her off on all those courier missions. And he's like, hey, let me buy you food. I have questions. And he asks her what kind of gift he should get his daughter, because his daughter has an upcoming recital and he wants to reward her for it. And Neon's response is to just stare blankly and look annoyed. Now, I will say this. If this guy's bringing up his daughter, that means there's going to be some importance to that character, at least if this was written by competent people. But unfortunately, the only female character we have that could possibly fit that role is Machu. But Machu doesn't have a performance coming up, unless by performance, he means her work as a fighter. In which case, that would mean that he knows that she's been in the clan battles. Not impossible, just incredibly contrived if that is the case. And if that's not the case, if his daughter's just some NPC we're never going to see, then what was the point of this scene? And after that, we see Neon take a bath, because of course she had to. It is the writer's barely disguised fetish after all. And then she stares out the window and she's like, I'd rather have been eating with Shuji and Machu. And I'm like, you know what would be really great? If I actually cared about you as a character, if they did any character work with you so that in this moment where you're sad, I could feel anything for you. But I don't. Next, we see that the boss of the Pomeranians is meeting up with Chalia Bull. And in the process, we learn that she is a former Zeon, that she also agrees to hand over the G-Quuuuuux once the fighting is over, and Chalia Bull gets information out of her that there are 2 female pilots of the G-Quuuuuux, which means Chalia Bull is actually smarter than Xavier, which isn't a surprise, because Xavier is primarily a moron. Still, at least this progressed some story stuff, and hinted at a bigger, more interesting plot that could be coming up eventually, maybe. We cut back to Machu, and she's at a little meeting at her school because of her ditching classes and not answering her career evaluation stuff. And her mom's really upset about this and references Machu's father, which again could tie back to the handler guy, which, ugh, God, I hope that's not the case. Anyhow, they ask her what she wants to do as a career, and she says, I want to swim in the oceans on Earth. When they say that's not a career, she gets all spoiled brat on them and storms off. You could have used this as a sequence for the counselor or something to say, well, you know, there are a lot of jobs on Earth, and if you got a job on Earth, you could end up swimming whenever you want. This scene annoyed me for two reasons. One, Machu is acting like a little brat in this sequence, and it doesn't make me sympathize with her at all, because realistically, she has no goal other than, I want to swim. I'm also annoyed because this could have been a more interesting sequence to get to know Machu better. Discussing, well, are you interested in this, or this, or this? And maybe finding out, oh wait, if you actually took these classes, you could get this job, and that would give you an excuse to go to Earth. After all, if the 1 year war happened, Earth is in kind of bad shape after the war. There's probably a need for people who could work in different aspects of redeveloping Earth. But why do that when she can just have a freak out and storm off? That's also good too. That's great characterization there. She then storms into the Pomeranian base where she hears the boss lady talking with one of the guys about how now that they know the location of the Red Gundam, they're going to sell it off because the bounty was high enough to set them for life. After she leaves, Machu walks in, and the guy probably knew that she was eavesdropping and is like, hey, Machu, for your own safety, you really should leave the team because things are going to be happening and you're not going to want to be part of them. And that's kind of cool for that guy to do that. I don't know his name, but apparently he cares enough about Machu to warn her about the upcoming plans in his own way. Machu then is like, I need to go and warn Shuji, and we need to find a place to hide the Red Gundam, otherwise he'll lose it, and that'll be bad. After that, we're back with the Zeons, and they're discussing the company that's backing the team that the Pomeranians will be fighting next time, and how there's a lot of things that are a little bit sus, and how they're connected with a research institute in Southeast Asia, and anyone who is familiar with Zeta Gundam will go, oh, that's the Murasame Institute. Now, they talk about this almost like they're setting up a mystery, except for the very next scene is Orm Bosk there with Gate, I believe is the name of the character, and they're discussing cyber new types and the Murasame Institute, and how the cyber new types are designed to kill new types. Which, yeah, they are. And then we get to meet the new cyber new type girl, who's having a weird little moment. This makes Gate a little nervous, and this is all fine, but she does use the term Kira Kira, which is a little bit odd, because A, cyber new types usually don't see the new type sparkles until they interact with the new type, and two, more importantly, why would she know that term? And don't get me this whole, it means sparkles or whatever in Japanese. That's not the point. The point is that she would probably have her own term for it, as I would assume most people will have a term for new typey energy stuff. So that just seemed a little odd to me. It's a minor complaint, but still something they should have thought of. We finally conclude the episode with Xavier going down an alleyway. Everything looks a little bit sus, and out of nowhere, two soldier guys come up, pointing their guns at him, and saying they're going to kill him because they know who he is and what he's planning. And it looks like he's about to get shot, but this is G-Quuuuuux, so why kill off a main character and create some sort of drama when we cannot? And out of nowhere, Chalia Bull, using Char's jetpack from the last episode of the original Gundam, because member berries, comes in and just blows away the two dudes. And Xavier's like, oh my gosh. Chalia is like, you're right, I shouldn't have killed those guys. Now we're gonna have to deal with the consequences of that. But we'll do that in the next episode. And Xavier's like, yeah, we are. Also, I'm not sure if you're really on my side or not. A lot of stuff happens in the episode, but there's still no plots, no moving forward story, no real themes of anything. This is a lot of just CW drama mixed with a really interesting, like, espionage story that I'm just not given enough of. I hate the fact that the B plot is the interesting part and the A plot is the garbage, and they won't give us more B plots. They're stingy with it, and I hate that. Sure, it's the only reason I'm sticking with the series, and that's a sign of bad writing. A viewer should be interested in the A plot and the B plot, not just one or the other. Otherwise, you're wasting the viewer's time. And right now, the story of G-Quuuuuux is just wasting the viewer's time. The characters are once again terrible. Characters are always the weak point, so hopefully this won't take too long to get through. First we have Machu. She acts like a spoiled brat in this episode. She's incredibly emotional, which is fine, but it goes nowhere with it. This isn't like she has an important conversation with her mother about her feelings. There's no working out of these emotions. It's just she's upset about her CW teen drama, then she's upset that no one understands that she wants to take a swim. It's really stupid. Then we have Neon. I guess we're supposed to care about her. I don't know why we're supposed to care about her, but I guess we are. And I guess her little emotional trauma thing she's going through is supposed to be interesting, except it's not. She's basically just hand-waved away any of her stuff from the last episode. And then when Handler Guy is trying to be nice to her, she's just a complete bitch to him. And I'm like, what is the deal with this? Why are you making her the worst character? When the show first aired, I was like, well, she's really cute. I hope we get to see more of her. And now when I see her face, I'm like, can she get off the screen, please? She smacks Haro. She treats people around her like crap. She has some sort of weird issues that are not explored. What is the point of this character? She's boring and just aggravates me by existing. Then we have Chili Bowl. Chili Bowl is... In this episode, they've decided that his personality is that he knows everything. He knows who has the G-Quuuuuux. He knows how to contact that person. He knows that Xavier is in trouble. He just knows everything. It's great. Why learn it somewhere or have his new type powers give him some insight onto anything when he can just show up because he knows? When it comes to our minor characters, we have the Train Man. The Train Man's interesting. I kind of want to know more about him. He's obviously some sort of intelligence operative, and that's about all we got. It's unfortunate the person he has to work for is Xavier, who is kind of a moron. But at least he's trying to push the story forward. For a tertiary character, that's not too bad. Then we have the Pomeranians. They're mostly morons who can't tell the difference between someone who has been rained on and someone who is just inside a mobile suit. But the boss lady seems to be quite aware of what's going on, and she has her little sneaky dealings in the background, which I do appreciate. Wish I knew her name. And then we have Tall Guy, who ends up warning Machu, and I appreciated that. It shows that he actually cares about one of his team members and what she's about to go through emotionally when everything goes down. Again, I don't know his name either. Then we have the Titans. Excuse me, the 12 Olympians. Clever, clever. A nice little cameo. We get a new Handler Guy, and we have a new test subject. They seem like they could be interesting characters, and I do appreciate them being introduced the episode before their battle. That's something that they haven't done before in this series, but there isn't enough there to really call them characters. As far as I can tell, it is just guy I know from something else, new guy, and girl. But still, they could do something with it, though I get the feeling I'm going to be horribly disappointed next episode. The characters are just so shallow, and even when there's something that should get me kind of excited, or even the espionage stuff that should really get me really hooked into the story, it's surrounded by just characters that just aren't characters. They are facilitators of the story, and that's a problem. It's something I complained about with Witch from Mercury, where the story was driving the characters and not the characters driving the story. We have the exact same problem here, we just have characters that don't annoy me as much. At least the aesthetics are good. Aesthetically, the show still holds the decent standards it's had this whole time. When it comes to the audio, we have two different songs that are used non-diegetically, which is perfectly fine. The first one occurs when Nyan is being emo, and the second one is kind of a wandering the city sequence. Both work pretty well. I think the first song's a little bit better than the second song. I am fairly certain I've heard one or both of these songs previously in the show. I'm sorry if I can't recognize every J-pop song I've heard like once before, but they do sound like other songs I've heard in the show. Again, they've done some decent work to try to make the music unique and memorable within the show, and to utilize songs that they've had before to kind of give you that feel of, oh, it's this song again. So I do like that. Beyond that, all the other audio work is essentially the same as it has been in previous episodes. When it comes to visuals, well, we get another bath scene, or as I like to call it, the writer's barely disguised fetish. And yes, I understand it ties into the leitmotif, because we see Nyan get into the bath and get out of it real quick. She's not lingering, and that could be a metaphor for her time with the G-Quuuuuux, and how she didn't really want to linger inside it, versus Machu, who is very much attached to it, and thus her baths are longer. This leitmotif is great and all, except for it's going nowhere. It still feels like water, right? Water. And I'm like, usually you use a motif in order to build something within the story or the themes, and we don't really have a story and we don't really have themes. So it's just kind of there for like metaphor, and that's rather unfortunate. There were no fights in this episode, which is perfectly fine. It just would have been nice that instead of fighting, we got anything, and instead we got nothing. The aesthetics remain quality in this show, but at this point, I've seen all their tricks. We know the leitmotifs. We've seen the usage of shadow. We've seen the background stuff that ties into the leitmotifs or other aspects of what characters are saying. And while that's great, you got to give me more. You can't just say, hey, we did the thing. Huh? The thing? That's not how that works. Audio-wise, kind of the same thing. Generally the strongest part of the show. And as we progress, there's going to be less and less I can say about it, which is, not entirely a bad thing. Sometimes good is just good. Now that that's put me in a better mood, let's get into the final verdict. Obviously, I didn't like this episode very much. I'm not a big fan of CW drama, but if you're going to do a CW drama type sequence, you actually have to play it out. You can't just have characters stewing and like, I'm not feeling very good right now because of my emotions. I'm going to stare at stuff. Or cross my arms like I'm thinking. I'm also annoyed that we're getting titles that just don't mean anything, or are outright lies. Don't do that for your episodes. I'd rather just be an episode number with no subtitle. That'd be perfectly fine. In fact, preferable to getting titles that just don't mean anything. Finally, it's a huge problem where the B story is more important than the A story, in terms of just the world, but also to me as the viewer. And if you wanted your A story to mean something, you need to give me characters I care about. And by making everyone one note and having no real growth or no real introspection, you aren't helping in that regard. Almost every Gundam protagonist is a teenager, but the majority of them, though not all, have something that makes them interesting, or they have an arc, or they have a moment of self-discovery or growth or anything. In a 12-episode series, we have hit the halfway point, and there is nothing. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. I'm sure the last couple episodes will be a banger, but right now we're in the running in place episodes in a series that should not have those. That's why my final verdict is 2 out of 5. The story is still non-existent, no real plot, no real themes. Our characters are empty shells that barely have personalities, and the ones that do have personalities have no growth. Our audio is great, but that doesn't carry a show. Our visuals are getting a little stale now that we've kind of seen all the tricks they have to offer. And how could I possibly enjoy this show when majority of each episode is dedicated to stuff I don't care about, featuring characters who are terrible? In fact, when I was scoring the episode, I almost gave this a 1.5, but I realized there was just enough that I liked not to lower it to that level. But I don't know how much longer that'll last. Frankly, this show is just frustrating. You can see the building blocks, and they're just scattered on the ground. What you want is the writers to go and connect those blocks and make something interesting and beautiful. And instead what you get is them like, hey, what if we just toss the blocks to other parts of the room? And sure, that can entertain you for a moment or two, but it isn't long-lasting. It isn't something for me to sink my teeth into as a viewer. I mean, this show isn't even designed around selling the toys. At least if this was a toy sale type show, I would at least be able to go and say, well, it's trying to sell me the toys by showing me tons of cool action, and maybe go, oh man, that suit is so cool, and that one is so cool, and ooh, are they gonna make a model of that? But they're not doing that either. We are in a running in place, nothing was really achieved, here's some minor tidbits of plot, maybe we'll do something next time. And that's not gonna cut it. I can only be so forgiving for so long, and right now we're hitting the limits of that. The fact that I'm comparing the plot and characters to Witch from Mercury is not a good sign. That is the absolute worst sign, as I consider that the worst Gundam series. Because it is. But maybe I'm being too harsh. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. And while you're at it, please like and subscribe. It lets me know you're enjoying these videos. And more importantly, it motivates me to make more Gundam-based content. hopefully based on series I actually like. Well, we got 6 more episodes left, and if I've gotten this far, I may as well get to the end. So until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the tavern.